Qualifying 2 for round 4 of the International GT Open in 2024 comes from the Hungaroring. We're going to set the grid for today's 60-minute encounter after Christopher Haas's heroics at the end of the 70-minute race yesterday, where the heavens opened and he was able to round up Mikael Pitamba and indeed quite a few other drivers on his way to victory for the #1 East Talent Racing team. And you can see conditions very, very different to how we left it at the end of race 1 yesterday, where the rain had arrived. And indeed, it was a deluge in qualifying yesterday as well. But now we're going to go qualifying in the dry. Chris Stevens and George Morgan in the commentary box for this 30-minute qualifying session. Hello, George.
Great to be back, Chris. I must say, after a fantastic race yesterday, I can't help but feel sorry, though, for a certain team. Mikael Pitamba, who... they had pole position at the very start. Dominic Baumann with such an illustrious effort in qualifying 1 yesterday. The first stint was heroic from him. Pitamba was on the cusp of performing his own heroics towards the very bitter end, but the rain swayed it outside of his favour, spinning the Mercedes in the penultimate lap before the very end, opening the door for Haase and also Vincent Abril as well. It was certainly a dynamite finish, but credit for Haase. And also credit to Simon Riker, who put in a sensational opening stint to get the race underway. It was a great drive, and East Talent can celebrate that. Yes,
their second victory of the season after what was a very dominant display in the opening race in Hockenheim a couple of weeks ago, or the second race in Hockenheim, I should say. Of course, that has brought them right back into the championship hunt as well, after a slightly disappointing double point enduro round at Spa. Last time out. That's another car we just saw there, the #9 Get Speed Mercedes, with a bit of cosmetic surgery on the front of it after Anthony Bartone shunted it in the barriers in those challenging conditions right at the end of the race yesterday. He was not the only driver to fall afoul of the conditions, but once again we saw the #9 Get Speed crew not really meeting their potential. They haven't been on the podium since they won the season opener in Portimao, and once again it was a disappointing result for Bartone and Schiller, despite some sensational speed that we always see from the Get Speed crew. Right, first flying laps being started for Q2. It's the car that finished second in Pro-Am yesterday, racing one of 7 cars with a stand-in driver for this weekend. David Fumanelli is in for Luca Ludwig, as the German is taking part in the Ferrari Challenge, and it's Fumanelli at the wheel for this session as well. And, well, we know how quick Fumanelli can be in a Ferrari 296, so let's see what he can do. But a couple other drivers I want to shout out from yesterday. Nico Menzel finished 8th in the car collection Porsche without traction control or ABS on his car. Some weird issues going on that car collection Porsche, and it's starting to become a recurring issue where they're losing the ABS. They happened to them in Hockenheim, and it happened to them in FP1 the other day as well. But to be in those conditions, in the rain, on slick tyres, no ABS, no traction control, I mean, these guys are superhuman. And this man as well, speaking of car collection, #7 going for a spin, Bashar Mardini in the red Porsche. That looks to have gotten away with it down at turn #7. Oh, no, there is some damage there on the rear end of that Porsche. So I wonder if it's hit the curb a little too aggressively there, because there's not much to hit there, really. Yeah, just finish out the point I was making. The other driver I want to shout out is Daniel Nagy as well, the local driver from the Zengo Motorsport team. Top 20 finish on their GT3 debut.
Yeah, fantastic to witness. And back to your point about the Menzel, Gustav Bergström point of view, obviously for Porsche, as you know, witness the spin of Bashar Mardini once again, just clattering the curbs on the inset, coming out. You can just see the scrubbing of the turf underneath as well.
He did hit the barrier as well.
He did, just unfortunately making contact with it. It's a good opportunity for Porsches this weekend, because it does seem to be a car that works favourably around the Hungaroring circuit. So for Gustav Bergström and Nico Menzel, it's a little unfortunate as far as they're concerned. This was a car that had to put its best defensive helmets on. They managed to scoop up P3 at the end of the day. Marco Sieber and Diego Menchaca, who were being forever pursued by our eventual winners, Christopher Haase and Simon Riker, and then also met with Vincent Abril. Menchaca had to put on a sterling display in the final stint, and he was rewarded for his efforts after what we saw happened to Pitamba towards the very end of the race. Yet another podium going their way, and they are now our championship leaders coming in to this second race this afternoon. But as you can see from the live speed, kicking things up to 180 beyond to 200 kilometers per hour, heading in towards turn 12, as he'll now look to conclude this flying lap. 2 improving sectors you can just see there, finding time, but still early days to go in qualifying.
Yet to take a win, this number 17 Motor Park Mercedes this season, but 4 podium finishes to their name, most recently yesterday, as you mentioned, and that has put them at the head of the championship. But it's been a very difficult run for a lot of the title protagonists. We've seen a lot of peaks and troughs from some of the other protagonists. One of the most consistent cars has actually been the car that spun yesterday, the Pitamba Baumann car with only 1 podium finish, but very consistently in the points, and that has served them well. Oh. Spin, though, for the Motor Park Mercedes into the barriers. That is the number 95 is that Morten Stromsted at the wheel of that car? Yes, it is. And, wow, that went wrong very, very quickly down into turn 2.
Yeah, just losing it altogether coming into the corner. It is a factor there. It's very easy to, I think, understeer in many ways, but in this case, I think there was a levy of oversteer as well, but plummeting into the Tech Pro barrier, the tyre barrier on the right-hand side. Red flag has been called here for the session, so all the cars must now come back into the pit lane, but not an ideal moment for Team Motor Park.
No, certainly not, and car that has been performing very well in the Pro-Am standings. They've had 4 podium finishes, and they were, now Morten Stromsted gets it going, of course, as we call the red flag. You can see the damage to the rear wing there. It's missing a few elements to it, but there he was into the barriers. And I'm curious to see how that all started. I mean, it seemed to go very quickly, and there was a great big tyre squeal as he made his way round. But, well, this should be a fairly rapid turnaround then, I'd have thought. I mean, there are a couple of bits of debris that might need to be collected, but should be getting underway fairly quickly, given that Stromsted has pulled himself out of the scene of the accident.
And the tyre barrier shouldn't be in too much trouble either, I would have thought, so should be okay.
Hello, Jerry.
Jerry Canavisio, everybody. Always one of our featured acts in the pit lane.
He's a character, George, I believe they call them.
Listen, I've been, obviously, since I've been commentating this championship now, since 2022, my day is always made brighter by seeing Jerry Canavisio in the pit lane. He is a phenomenal human being. As we now take a look at the Mercedes Scuderia Villorba Corsa, just getting a tyre change on the board. There's the ISR Audi R8 LMS. I mean, they had their own problems yesterday because they pulled into the pit lane early prior to the driver change window. Libor Milotta at the wheel of this one. Philip Salakada was on for their initial stint yesterday, but that car had to be brought back in, Chris.
Yes, it did. Never actually got to the bottom of what was wrong with that car. But we also saw a retirement for the Artem Petrov Lamborghini. So Marzio Moretti didn't even get to drive yesterday. But of course, we saw the contact on the opening lap at turn 3, which they punctured the radiator on the rear of that Lamborghini, caused the gearbox temperatures to spike. And given the damage on that car was already causing it to lap several seconds a lap slower, they decided the best thing to do was to pull the car in. But Marzio Moretti hoping for better luck in the opening stint today. There was Daniel Nagy there in the white and green Zengo Motorsport Mercedes. Team and driver making their GT3 debut, as we mentioned. Of course, very well known in the world of touring cars. And hopefully we should be seeing more of them out throughout the season.
The Olymp Racing Ferrari also getting lined up. Bumped into Christian Korzanowski yesterday. He was looking forward to the weekend, but he's setting in, well, he's going to be stepping into the car for this session. Stanislav Jedlinski taking the initial stint yesterday for qualifying 1. But as you can see, a very active pit lane as we're under red flag conditions. Hopefully we won't be under these conditions for too much longer, with there only being a basic issue. As we just see the heat, they're trying to expel the heat out of Acker and Scholz's car. Of course,
it's a high-tech effort from Attempto Racing.
Well, many of them obviously not operating with air conditioning this weekend because obviously it sucks the power out of the car, and they need every bit of it for qualifying in order to usher in their best laps.
Yes, we saw how difficult it was to overtake yesterday before the rain came, and so qualifying really is quite important here. But great to have Attempto Racing with us in the championship. Alex Acker and Florian Schultz at the wheel of that car, and this, my understanding is this won't be a one-off outing. There'll be a few outings for the team. That is, of course, also competing in GT World Challenge. Alex Acker, son of the team boss Arkin, of course, the young German, but racing in GT World Challenge for, I think it's his 5th year in GT World Challenge for Alex Acker. And of course, Florian Schultz, who's taking the wheel in this session. The last time he came here, he was running in Pro-Am, but took the overall win with Team GT and Alain Valente. It's the last time we saw a Pro-Am car take the outright win in the GT Open.
It certainly was, and it was a wonderful occasion. I remember them crossing the line. It was certainly a special moment as far as they were concerned. Libo Malotta, who is in that ISR Audi R8 LMS, partnering up with Philippe Salacada, the Czech outfit. We're here looking to take on the Hungaroring circuit once more as we pan across this very lovely picturesque view of the home straight here at Hungaroring with the pit lane and all the cars currently decorating the pit lane section now. Just reversing a car by the looks of it as well. Further up the order, can't quite see which one that is.
The Il Baron Rampante Lamborghini.
Looks like it could be Cipriani's car,
yes. So I wonder if that was just at the end of pit lane when the red flag came out and they just want to
put it back in
the garage.
Yeah, makes sense. Obviously at this stage, no word on when we're heading back out. All cars, it has been actually stated by race control, all cars in the pit allocation and wait for info. So
that's why
they're rolling it back into position. Marco Polcini, though, Pro-Am winners yesterday.
Yes, and fantastic from Marco Polcini. He was right up in the top 2 for the majority of his stint, and obviously when the rain came, it was a really tough job for the amateur drivers in particular, who were just not used to that sort of thing. I mean, we saw even some of the pros really struggle. So for Polcini to bring it home in those conditions, extending his and Eddie Cheever's championship lead in the Pro-Am standings, I thought that was a very impressive drive indeed. Seen some real heroic drives yesterday up and down the field, but a few drivers looking for redemption. Right, restart will be at 9:30, which is in about 2 minutes and 10 seconds time.
Not too long to go. Fast lane is now going to be declared open very shortly. There we are. Fast lane has now been declared open, and the cars will now make their way down the pit lane and get into position. But prior to going out, the 65, the first to rise in the Mercedes AMG GT3, being driven by Heiko Neumann, Timo Rumpf-Kyle, and they're obviously chasing further Ram success. Speaking to Heiko Neumann this morning, they were not happy with the performance yesterday. Heiko Neumann's not happy unless he wins. Third place, not enough in class yesterday.
I was spun around yesterday by Yannick Mettler at turn 2, wasn't he? And the car barn Mercedes ended up picking up a penalty for that one. So obviously a less than ideal day for either of those 2 Mercedes teams. Always another redemption story going on there. But in the AM Championship, they are chasing Cipriani going into this weekend. And in fact, Cipriani pulled out just a little bit further into the lead in the championship yesterday with second in his class. It was won by the 786 crew of Adamo Seika and Kiki Sak-Nana. And so we have basically Cipriani and the Motor Park and the Get Speed all on 2 wins apiece now in the AM category. So might only be 4 cars in it, but it's been a real roller coaster
It has been. Well, it's usually a roller coaster in the International GT Open anyway. I must say it's been a roller coaster ride through all classes. The only differing class, I would say, is the Pro-Am, because Marco Polcini and Eddie Cheever are up to their usual Pro-Am heroics of late, have taken several wins so far this campaign. If we look back at what happened back at Portimao Race 1 and Hockenheim Race 1 alike, seem to hold all the form in Race 1 competition, and they continue that suit here at Hungaroring after taking victory again yesterday.
Yes, of course, we're also seeing wins for Giorgio Senegiotto and Alessandro Cosi, and for Ernst Kirkmeyer and Luca Ludwig, and for Karol Bash and Marcin Jedlinski in Spa last time out. As we have the green flag waved, session is resumed with a little over 23 minutes left on the clock. But yes, Pro-Am, I mean, 17 cars, or however many we've ended up, it varies weekend on weekend, but 17 is about the average that we have, and it's just stacked with so many fantastic drivers. And great teams as well, and the fight is fierce. I think that speaks volumes to the job that Cheever and Polcini are doing at the moment. And okay, yes, they've just taken their third win and a bit more of a lead in the championship, but don't expect it to stay that way whatsoever. Last year, it was a very tight fight between themselves and the Olymp Racing team of Bash and Jedlinski, and it went right down to the wire, and I'm fully expecting it to do the same thing again this year.
Absolutely right. They're getting closer, and you could argue that given the sheer mass of entries do have in Pro-Am this season, despite the great efforts they put in place to take the championship last year, if they win the championship this year, it'll arguably be more impressive than what happened last season. So
very much so.
Credit to the Ferrari 296 pairing. Bear in mind, it was Ferrari 296's first championship last season, taking that Pro-Am title here in the International GT Open. But we're back underway. Nonetheless, the return of Maximilian Paul as well. Always great to see him in the International GT Open. Performed heroics last season alongside Pierre-Louis Chauvet. It all came to a blistering end where, just heading around the final corner, it all happened around turn 14, where Max Paul would take a famous victory. One of the greatest results, one of the greatest finishes you'll see in International GT Open history. And,
any race history.
Well, any race history. I mean, yesterday was a fair close call.
It was pretty. It was right up there, wasn't it? It always comes to a head at Budapest, doesn't it?
Thank you, Budapest. Yeah. That's all I will say.
Oh, it's lovely. Yeah. Such a great city as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yes, Maximilian Paul back in the carbon, competing in DTM this season. He was a race winner in DTM last year as well, but here with his eponymous team. And rumour mill is might be back in future rounds.
We hope
as
so.
Well. Yeah,
I hope
he's a very welcome addition to the grid, is Maximilian Paul. Of course, alongside Pierre-Louis Chauvet, he took more wins than anyone last year, and we're in the title hunt right down to the wire. It was one of 4 cars that was competing for the title in the final race in Barcelona last year.
On the ADAC Nürburgring 24-hour Pro-Am podium was young Maximilian Paul, also competing in DTM, and obviously we alluded to his heroics last year in the International GT Open. I'm sure there'll be more to come in the future should he return to this championship full-time, also factoring in his work in the GT Masters. And furthermore on, I'm sure there'll be plenty more occasions where he turns up to perform. In this Porsche, the mixture of Gustav Bergström and Nico Menzel. We've got 2 drivers here that have also had numerous successes. Nico Menzel, obviously 2020, 2021 NLS Pro-Am champion and Nürburgring 24 Hours winner. So firmly adept at big race situations. No doubt after yesterday's heartache, they'll be looking for more, Chris.
Yes, and that's the car that we were talking about that had the ABS traction control issue. And so, yeah, being out on slick tyres on a wet track, no ABS, no traction control, very impressive indeed. As Christopher Haase starts a flying lap, yesterday's race winner. For what it's worth, fastest time at the moment, set by Simon Connor Prim, 1:44.479 in the number 63 Oregon Lamborghini. Connor Prim being one of the stand-in drivers for this weekend. He's standing in for Rolf Eichen, who's still recovering from injury that he suffered in qualifying at Spa. So the 19-year-old German, the Lamborghini Junior, who's been competing in GT Masters this year, filling in for Eichen.
Oh, Vincent Abril goes to the top now as well. So that's the Ferrari poking its head above the water once again. Of course, Abril winning here in Race 2 competition back in 2020 alongside Louis Pret. and now pushing his car to the front. Very nearly won yesterday if he managed to overtake Christopher Haase in those dying laps. Haase himself also out on a lap and looking to try and usher in yet again another blistering time. This time, as opposed to starting in P7 like they did yesterday, I would firmly expect they have their eyes set on a higher prize, Chris.
I mean, when Audi Works driver Christopher Haase at the wheel of the car, then yeah, you expect fireworks. And we were talking about this with Chris the other day, about how when he is on it in that car, it just seems to come alive. It skips about, and you see it's almost pulled the inside rear wheel off the ground there. So much, not necessarily roll, but you can just see the effort that the car is going through as he comes up to the timing line and goes top. 1:43.232, fastest in the first and second sectors. He's a 1/10 of a second ahead of Vincent Abril and Maximilian Paul, currently at third fastest. But yeah, they're significantly quicker than what we were doing before the red flag. So I think the fast times are really starting to come in now as Vincent Abril rounds the penultimate corner aboard the number 51 Spirit of Race Ferrari car that finished second yesterday to Christopher Haase, but really pushed the German all the way towards the checkered flag. It was a very tense last lap, as we already saw one leader bin it off the road, and we thought there could have been fireworks between Abril and Haase as well. But Abril reducing the deficit on that previous lap to 43 thousandths of a second, but remains in second with the fastest second sector.
Yeah, the third sector not quite going to plan for him. Another car that's on a flying lap is the one being donned by David Fuminelli on his return to the series. Has gone purple in the first sector, and also a personal improvement in sector 2 alongside Ernst Kirkmeyer this time around. And we've had David Fuminelli in this series now for quite a number of years. Certainly in the last 2 we've seen him competing, and always a vibrant qualifier who did very well in single-seater action under the GT Sport organisation, competing back in the Euro Formula Open Championship. And now up towards the line goes Fuminelli, the fastest Ferrari out on track, answering back, and another red flag has been brought out.
Yellow flags were out at turn number 11. That's why it's the number 88, Gino Forgione, in the Spirit of Race Ferrari 296, has hit the barriers on the exit of turn number 11. So, well, good timing for David Fuminelli to get that lap in right before the red flag came out. But you can see the debris strewn across the track, and unlike the Morten Stromsted incident, I believe that car will need some intervention to get it cleared, as we see Gino getting out of the car.
Obviously needs some air after that one, you can imagine. But yeah, the damage and the debris littering across the track, so that's going to need to be cleared up. And any concerns in terms of barriers, well, they'll obviously need to be fixed should there be any damage. The red flag out and about as all the cars buckle their way into the pit lane. Right, here's the moment. Yeah, oh, wow, quite the impact. And you can see the dent to the barrier to the inside there. And that's heading down the straight coming out of turn 11. Yeah,
so he's lost it on the exit of the corner and just pitched it into the barriers. But Gino out of the car.
Walking away, which is always good to see. But yeah, certainly not an ideal moment for them. Puts them out of contention in terms of qualifying now.
Well, yeah, 25th at the moment they are. So.
Yeah, and obviously the clock has now stopped. We've still got 16 minutes and 50 to go. Second red flag of the session as the teams now go to work on their respective cars, including this one, the number 95 Team Motor Park car of Morten Stromsted. That was the car that went into the barrier earlier on that caused the first red flag. Obviously the Motor Park team having a debate at the moment by the side of the car to obviously discuss what they're going to do about it. There's the car belonging to Menzel and Gustav Bergström. They'll be hoping, like we've already said, for a better day today, and hoping that everything works in their favour. Nico Menzel currently 7th fastest on this timing screen, just behind Yannick Mettler. And great to see Alessio Dono out in action as well. 2nd fastest Pro-Am, currently 5th overall.
Yes, Alessio Dono, another of the stand-in drivers, this time for Giorgio Cernicchiotto, who's racing in IMSA at the 6 Hours of the Glen this weekend. The Ferrari Challenge champion, who started GT3 competition this year in GT World Challenge. Of course, other drivers racing in IMSA this weekend include Jordan Pepper. That's why Maximilian Paul is in the number 10. Tiemann van der Helm as well from the car collection team racing in the GTP Porsche. So Emil Persson, the Carrera Cup Scandinavian driver, and former teammate Gustav Bergström, also standing in for this race. Let's have a look at Marco Polcini here. We're not quite seeing the same Carol Bash heroics that we saw yesterday, where he was really flirting with that grass during the wet weather yesterday.
Yeah, Pit Amber as well at the wheel this time in qualifying. Obviously had a tough day yesterday. The win was on a plate. They're currently 13th fastest in the timing screen. Diego Menchaca at the wheel of the AIX liveried Motor Park Mercedes. Currently 12th fastest, ahead of Pit Amber. Currently in tandem together. And there's the Easterlent Audi done by Christopher Haase. And let's just have a look at how much he pushes this car out wide coming out of the turn 7 of the chicane.
Beautiful slide.
Just unbelievable precision from a vastly experienced Audi Works driver. And that's essentially what got them that race win yesterday. Yeah,
we were talking about at the end of the race, weren't we? Where just the difference between the experienced heads like Chris Haase, like Vincent Abril, the ones who bring it home in those situations against the young silver drivers, for example, who can't fall back on that same level of experience. And so, no discredit to, Mikhail Pitamba, Anthony Bartone, who ended up spinning the cars right at the end of the race. But I mean, for what it's the difference between victory and losing.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, I mean, Pit Amber, as we take another look at the incident for Gino Forgione, again, the damage, very clear on the back of that Ferrari. It's not as if Pit Amber hasn't defended against drivers in the past. We've looked back at grand performances. There's Timo Rumpfkarl, team boss at Team Motorpark, and also driver for the AM car that's currently being driven by Heiko Neumann. Let's listen in. Obviously
needed a microphone a bit closer.
I think we did, yeah. Just discussing Morten Stromsted's car after the moment that he had, I believe, that brought out the red flag.
And I have the utmost respect for any team boss who is able to be a racing driver, or indeed any racing driver who goes into being a team boss. I got to see Nicolas Lapierre running the Cool Racing team. He would jump out of the LMP2 car, finish his stint, and then immediately switch gears
into team boss mode.
Team boss mode. It's like, oh, there's a problem on the other car, and he's straight onto it. And in the AM category, we have both the Get Speed team boss Adam Osaka and the Motorpark team boss Timo Rumpfkarl competing there, the championship rivals as well. It staggers me the way they can just switch gears like that.
It takes a lot, certainly. I mean, to manage a large outfit such as Motorpark, who, we speak about their GT Open successes in the past. Obviously, they've got a fairly youthful, sort of duration in GT3 racing. We haven't seen them do much of it. Of course, it's all started at the GT Open only 2 seasons ago. A lot of their time has been spent with single-seaters, developing young talents for the future, and they've worked with a lot of them. So to deal with that, and then on top of it, take on a GT3 program, that really does speak volumes.
We just sort of take it for granted that Motorpark will be at the front because they are just such a legendary single-seater team. You have to sit back and remember, this is only their second full GT racing.
They only had sporadic appearances in 2022.
They had a couple of appearances, and then I think they ran a Porsche Super Cup half campaign or something 10 years ago or something like this. So yeah, in terms of their GT campaigns, it's a very young program, and they've achieved so much in such a short space of time.
And very nearly won an overall title in their first year.
Very nearly did. They very nearly did. They did come away with the AM Championship last year, of course, with Rumpfkarl and Neumann. But yeah, you just take it for granted that they're going to be at the front of the field at some point.
Absolutely right. The Blau Motorsport Ferrari being wheeled backwards as well as we now pan across this grid order. You can see the McLaren 720S in the background belonging to the Greystone GT team. There's the local hero, Daniel Nagy.
So look how squashed Daniel is in the car, because he's a tall lad. Yeah. He really is. He's about 6'2", 6'3", I'd say.
He's a globetrotter.
Well, it was amazing. I went to go say hello to him yesterday, and he was sat down, and he stood up, and I kept raising my head, and it just didn't stop. It just kept going up. Yeah, I think the seating position is a little uncomfortable for him potentially, yeah.
Well, it reminds me of another Hungarian, another tall Hungarian, Danny Berezsny in the sim racing world, who needs a specially built rig in order to harness him.
How tall's he then?
Well, he's very nearly 7 foot, I would say. And I must say, the way he hits a brake pedal, I'm surprised he hasn't put a hole in his drywall. I'll be quite honest. Yeah, there seems to be a thing about height in Hungaroring. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's the humidity. I don't know.
Yeah, something in the water here. Right, you can see the repairs to the Armco barriers. They're well underway. Restart estimated at 9:55.
There's a souvenir for a lucky fan there.
Yes. I think they're going to put it on the truck. But that should be about 10 minutes time for the restart. That is to be confirmed as the repairs continue down at turn number 11. But we saw the car on the truck, the debris pretty much cleared. So all that remains is just to get that barrier back up in its proper position.
Well,
do we know of any other tall Hungarians we can fill the time with, George?
Well, let me get my address book out.
Yes.
Honestly. But truly amazing. I mean, I must say, given that we've got the immense collection of cars that we do have here, the GT Open has gone from strength to strength with the brilliant names with Fuminelli, Haase, Vincent Abril in third place, Maximilian Paul making his return. Just, like I said, just more big names just being added to this championship. Florian Scholze, great to see him back too. And like we said, after the successes that he had with Team GT just 2 seasons ago, and there's the SPS Performance Mercedes needing a much needed cool down. Obviously, Yannick Mettler and Dexter Muller driving this car.
Thumbs up from Yannick Mettler there by the looks of it, just getting the cool air in there. And it has been hot, we have to say. We were expecting it to be a lot hotter. All the weather apps have lied to us this weekend. We were expecting, low 30s or even the high 30s that we saw on Friday. It has been quite a bit cooler. It's currently, 22 degrees air temperature, but very muggy, which has made things slightly uncomfortable, particularly for the drivers in the cars when they consider you got, helmet and overalls and big hot car underneath you as well, and no air coming into these as well, very little as well. Although I think I was talking to Daniel Nagy about this yesterday, but in the with the air coming through the cars, it's actually better than compared to, say, the touring cars, which is what he's used to driving. So you can afford to keep the aircon off, whereas in touring cars you might not have more of an option.
No, they're just trying to repair the damage to the barrier. You can just see they're trying to correct it. It was somewhat of a dent that was put in after the impact from Gino Forgione. There's the view from the East Talent side of the pit lane, and they're waiting to patiently go out. Christopher Haase, second fastest in the immediate. Green in the previous lap of the first sector, so while showing some improvements, the time gap actually fairly minimal if you consider generally what is considered in GT racing. Though what I will say, the top three yesterday in qualifying, they were all within a tenth of a second. 35 thousandths of a second between the top three in qualifying yesterday, which was very, very impressive indeed. Actually, just looking at Chris Haase there, I did something reminded me about something, a tweet I saw yesterday. And it was like, Haase's earned his name, which of course Haase is it's like the hair in German. And he had the design on the back of his helmet.
Yeah, he has it on his seat as well. He has a little sort of rabbit hair type thing on his seat. And it's almost tortoise and the hare kind of story. But
well, he's as rapid as a.
He was as rapid as the hare yesterday, but a bit more patience than the hare in the old fable. That's for sure.
Another picturesque shot. You can see the fans in collective here. We've been speaking about the fan support here at Hungaroring all weekend. It has been absolutely stellar. They always come out here at Budapest. We've seen it season on season in the International GT Open. We broke a crowd record not too long ago as well in terms of the attendances that we experienced back in 2022 as well as 2023, and they still continue to support as ever and as always here this time around in 2024. There'll be awaiting the cars to head out onto the track very soon to see who could topple David Fuminelli, if it is at all possible. We know how quick Fuminelli truly is, and I'm sure he, Haase and Abril are going to get down to it as the timer ticks downwards.
Yeah, the pit walk yesterday was sensational. Absolutely rammed with fans who have come here to get a nice close look at these fantastic GT3 machines. 30 of them on the grid this weekend, made up of 11 Mercedes AMG, 7 Ferrari 296, 4 Lamborghini Huracan, 4 Audi R8 as well, 3 Porsches and 1 McLaren 720S as well. So 6 manufacturers represented on the field for this weekend, and obviously the symphony of noises that you get with GT3 racing as well. You've got the V10s in the Audi and the Lamborghini, the 6.2 litre V8 in the Mercedes, the twin-turbo V8 in the McLaren, the twin-turbo V6 in the Ferrari, and then, of course, the flat 6 in the Porsche as well. So it's a real orchestra out there when they get going, which hopefully will be in about 5 minutes' time. We should be able to get the remaining 16 minutes and 50 seconds of this Q2 session underway. For what it's worth, David Fuminelli getting that time in right before we went under red flag conditions in the Racing 1 Ferrari, so it's a 1:43.105. The drivers will be chasing when we go green again. Christopher Haase a tenth of a second away from that, and then Vincent Abril half a tenth away in the Spirit of Race Ferrari. Also in Pro-Man, Alessio Dono and Yannick Mettler in the top 3. And then in AM, it's Christian Korzanowski and Adamo Saker in 10th and 11th overall, who are separated by quarter of a second. That man right there, Christian Korzanowski, on provisional AM pole position. That's one of the drivers who came through the Nissan. Wasn't called Race to Reality, was it? The Sim Racing to Real Racing Driver program. I forget what it was called off the top of my head.
Well, we've had the Race of Champions in the past that has seen certainly both ends of the spectrum cross paths. Looking ahead, if you want a reminder as to where we're going for the second half of this International GT Open calendar, we've already concluded action at Portimao, Hockenheimring, Spa-Francorchamps for the 500. We are, of course, here at Hungaroring as we witness Nico Menzel getting some much-needed cool air fed into his cockpit. We head to Le Castellet for our next round in France, which will be occurring next month. We then take a trip to Red Bull Ring around Spielberg in Austria. And then the penultimate round at Barcelona. Of course, usually Barcelona being our final round, but this time a little change on the calendar as we head to the Temple of Speed at Monza for yet another enduro event that will see us bring an end to the season and what could be quite a fight for the title should the championship standings remain as they are, but almost definitely they should, I would say, based on what we've seen in recent seasons and given what we've seen since the start of the season at Portimao. It has been so illustrious, and where better than to end the season at a historic circuit such as Monza.
Of course, double points on offer as well. It's another of the GT Open 500 rounds, so we will be in for a fantastic end to the season, that is for sure. Right, restart has been confirmed for 9:55, which is in 3 minutes' time, and the fast lane will open in about 2 minutes' time. So we will get the remaining 16 minutes and 50 seconds of this qualifying session underway. There we see. That's
there's the 88.
That's Forgioni's car being brought back. Looks all right from that side, doesn't it? It's the other side that looks a little less pretty.
The back of the car bore the brunt of the impact heading through turn 11. We've seen it, though, happen before. Mistakes can be made at that portion of circuit. There he is, giving a thumbs up. That's always great to see. And we do wish him the very best, Gino Forgioni, and hopefully he'll be okay come the rest of the weekend. But obviously never a nice situation. And bringing his qualifying to a close on the outset of turn 11. We'll take a look at the impact again. Just back into the barrier, rear end hitting the steel barrier. But good to see him walking away from that one.
Fast lane is open, and this time it is Marcos Seibert who wins the race to the end of pit lane. It's Diego Menchaca, sorry, in the 17 Motorpark Mercedes. So we are 35 seconds or so away from the green flag, getting this session underway. I think that's the sister Motorpark car that's just behind him as well, the Lorenzo Fluxer and Lucas Dunner car.
Yeah, and Menchaca will be the first to brake and head down through towards turn 1. The fast lane now being open. They'll await the lights to go green, the flag to go green, and we will be back underway for qualifying for the final 16 minutes and 50. Fuminelli still at the top with a 1:43.105. The Italian back to his very best. Of course, competing in the Michelin Le Mans Cup in GT3 class this season. Also competing in GT World Challenge. He is a Renault Sport Trophy endurance champion back in 2015 and a Euro Formula Open runner-up in 2011. And now marks his return back to the International GT Open, a championship that he's been part of now for quite a number of years. There is the Carbon Mercedes, the number 54, Yannick Mettler at the wheel. And for those of you who haven't already checked it out, they are, of course, working on their own little documentary series around the team centred around the International GT Open, which is a pleasure to watch. As we now watch the car collection Porsche make its way uphill. Bashar Mardini, who had his own little spin on the outset of the chicane at turn 6 and 7, recovering well, and now back out on track, looking to bring a positive end to qualifying with just under 16 minutes to go.
That circuit roars back into life. So we're on board with Mardini here on his outlap, the Q8 driver, very experienced in Porsche machinery, the Middle Eastern Porsche Cup Series and the Italian Championship as well in Carrera Cup Germany as well, Carrera Cup France, was racing in Porsche Super Cup last year as well, so he knows how to handle Porsche machinery, but when it comes to the GT3 car, well, that's a different story compared to the Cup. But actually, I was talking about this with Gustav Bergström earlier. It depends where you race in the world, about whether you're allowed to have traction control or ABS in the Carrera Cup series, because in North America they use the ABS, but I think in most other championships it's all assist off. So it's actually probably harder to drive than the GT3 car. But here comes Menchaca, starting his first flying lap on this restart. The Mexican, who is teammates with one of his closest friends, Marcos Seibert, and they have success together. It is always great to see two friends getting that success together. Of course, they know each other from back in their days at Campos in the Euro Formula Open Championship, now teammates in the GT Open.
Yeah, now back underway. Personal improvements already on show for Diego Menchaca in the first sector, but obviously expect those times to launch even more as we make our way through the session. Morten Stromstedt recovering well off the back of his little moment earlier on in the session. He's now gone green in the first sector, so that's another promising display for Team Motorpark in this instance. Fast in the speed trap now, Eliseo Dono. And as they now hurtle through this next right hand, you can see the live speed in the bottom right of your screen. That will detect precisely as to what the car is performing like in this instance. 150 kilometers per hour coming around turn 11, now hurtling down through towards turn 12, and then they'll make their way through turns 13. Menchaca showing improvements again within a second of our current P1 sitter, Pro-Am driver David Fuminelli. But this time could yet see the Motorpark Mercedes move its way higher up this order, but coming straight back into the pits.
Interesting. Okay, well, Menchaca bailing out of that one, clearly not happy with the car. So he dives back into pit lane. Our new championship leader, of course, after yesterday's podium finish. There's Christopher Haase on a hot one, wagging the tail of that Audi through the exit of turn 8 and 9. Coming into the final sector now. It's not an improvement on this lap for the German. But building back up. Still got just under 13 minutes left on the clock. 1:43.105 is the benchmark time set by David Fuminelli in the Racing 1 Ferrari 296. Racing in Le Mans Cup this year, but no stranger to success in the International GT Open, particularly in the Pro-Am field. And usually when Fuminelli's qualifying the car, you expect him to be up at the front, fighting for pole.
Prior to racing getting underway, of course, it was 28 degrees out on track in terms of the temperature. It's now rocketed up at this time of the day to 33.7. And aside from that, the temperature in the air itself around 23.1 degrees. So fairly strong. We are at the hottest we've been right through this morning. So a clear indication that, you know, hotter track temperatures are still to come. At this stage, though, it is still Haase in second. We're now panning across to another Audi R8 LMS, this time being driven by Marcin Jedlinski instead of Karel Basch, who put in a monstrous stint, was working hard to try and close the gap in qualifying and also in the race. Marcin Jedlinski finding time in the first sector and around 6/10 away from Fuminelli, but has now stretched that gap even more so. It's now just beyond 1.5, well, just beyond 1.4 seconds coming through turn 12, now through turn 13, as he looks to lurch himself closer and closer to the front end of the Pro-Am fight. Now putting his foot back to the floor again. Of course, this team are hunting down the pairing of Marco Polcini and Eddie Cheever coming into this weekend, second in the Pro-Am Championship, as he now takes a very, very aggressive line coming through the final corner. Let's wait and see what Jedlinski can bring across. P13 for the Audi R8 LMS. Olympus Racing now sitting in Pro-Am 4th.
Yeah, and ahead of their title rivals, Marco Polcini. Of course, top AM at the moment is Christian Korzanowski, and that's top of all the bronze drivers as well, because all the Pro-Am cars ahead of them got their Pro car in it at the moment. I think it's only 3 cars that have got their Pro in for this one. Yes, I think it is. So it's all about Mettler, Dono and Fuminelli in the Pro-Am field. Fuminelli not improving on this lap either, but a personal best coming in for Alessio Dono, who is currently 4th fastest and 2nd of the Pro-Am runners, as Fuminelli bails for pit lane. And here is that number 25 AF Corsa Ferrari. Dono setting a personal best in the first sector. Let's see what the middle sector is like. It's not an improvement in the middle sector, but if he can nail the end of the lap, it might still be an improvement on his 1:43.318 that he set last time around. He's only 43 thousandths of a second away from Vincent Abril. And no, Alessio Dono bailing for the pit lane as well. So the Ferrari Challenge champion heading back into pit lane. We see a tyre change going on here for the Racing 1 Ferrari, David Fuminelli.
Looking to consolidate that pole position attempt here. Still on top in the timing screen by over a 10th. As we now take a look at the car being driven by Florian Scholzer, another sister Audi R8, the Attempto, attempting to hit the heights here in the Pro-Am battle. As they now send it going a little bit wide, coming out of turn 11 through towards turn 12. Let's see what Scholzer can do. Obviously, we mentioned his exploits with Team GT 2 years ago. Of course, that was in a Mercedes. That was in Mercedes machinery. Now heading through turn 13, trying to keep it as tight as he can. It's been a while since we've seen Florian Scholzer at the wheel in the International GT Open. The last time being in 2022, but now coming around the final corner at turn 14. Personal improvements in the first 2 sectors. Heading up towards the line, he'll go from 19th. He'll remain 19th fastest, so not necessarily improvements in the timing screen, just in behind Nagy, who's in 18th. That's the hometown hero here, racing at his home track this weekend. And speaking of which, here he is now, Daniel Nagy, who in this lap alone, going green in the first sector, so personal improvements on the board here for the Mercedes-AMG GT3. Also in their fight for greater success in this weekend's Pro-Am battle. And the Zengo Motorsport Mercedes heading down now towards turn 12. Riding on board with him right now, Daniel Nagy, with his foot back to the floor once more as he looks to burst around turn 13. Let's see what improvements he can register in the middle sector. He has made a personal improvement, a 38.149. His last lap being a 1:45.156. And that was a personal improvement as well, so he's going to improve on top of the improvement. But the Hungarian looking for more at his home track here in Budapest. What can Nagy provide? He goes up to 14th fastest, so lost a little bit of time in the final sector, but positives in the first two.
Yeah, 44.9 for the local hero. And talking to him earlier, he said a good qualifying would be top 15 for him. I thought it was impressive enough. He put it 22nd yesterday and finished inside the top 20 in the race. But yeah, you're right, George. He is very hungry for more. Let's take a closer look at the Attempto Audi skipping over the curves, and a nice slide there for Florian Scholz, gathering the R8 up very nicely on the exit of turn number 7. There's Nico Menzel, who's currently at 7th fastest, and he's done a personal best in the first sector. You listen to that flat 6 sing as they come out of turn number 11. And the middle sector is also a personal best, and it is it's a competitive one at that as well. So Nico Menzel set for an improvement on 7th as it stands in the car collection Porsche as he rounds the final corner. Cornering very flat is the Porsche, but drives up towards the timing line. It's 7th for Menzel at the moment, and he goes up to 4th with a purple final sector there as well, and only 0.09 of a second away from Vincent Abril, who's just gone across the line to go top by a 1/4 of a second, fastest in the 2nd and 3rd sectors.
Fantastic effort from Vincent Abril, coming here this time around, slotting his car to the top ahead of David Fuminelli, who is still in the pits, as is Christopher Haase. So we're still yet to see any movement from his competitors here at this point. But the race winner from race 2 back in 2020 with Louis Pret, back again this time alongside Nicola Marinangeli, now on provisional pole position ahead of the race that's going to come up this afternoon to certainly bring an end to the Hungarian weekend. And what a positive ending it could yet be, finishing 2nd yesterday. Could have so easily been another race win for Vincent Abril, but Alessio Dono, this time 3/10 up in the first sector. A young man who competed in Italian GT back in 2022 and has since taken stints, but has backed out of his lap by the looks of it in the middle sector, a mistake clearly made.
But Abril's going quicker still in the first sector. He's taken a 10th off of his personal best in the first sector. So we'll see if he can bring this lap home as well. But Alessio Dono there, clearly not happy with how it was unfolding. Abril up in the 2nd sector as well. And so the 51 car could be lowering the benchmark still as Alessio Dono brings it up to start another flying lap. Less than 5 minutes left on the clock now to determine the grid for this afternoon's 60-minute race 2. Where is Vincent Abril? There he is in the red Ferrari in the back of shot as he comes across the line. Is this going to be a further improvement? No, just misses out by a 10th of a second. Still faster than what Fuminelli had previously done, but not quicker than the 1:42.857 that he did on the previous lap.
Yeah, Marco Polcini going up to 7th fastest ahead of Maximilian Paul as well. Marzio Moretti up to 9th. For Team Oregon alike, so already more movements coming into the fold as Diego Menchaca now goes 7th fastest. Now the the hero from Hungary last year, Maximilian Paul, purple in the first sector on this very lap. Lost a little bit of time though in sector 2, but it's still a personal best in comparison to his prior laps. Let's see if he can pull off some magic once again. He goes 2nd fastest, Maximilian Paul. Lays down a 1:43.011, but David Fuminelli takes it back because his time has been deleted. Unfortunate there for Maximilian Paul. But nonetheless, we've now got Haase out on track. Fuminelli now out on his outlap, brings his outlap to an end and goes on a fast run. Maximilian Paul will have to try again in order to move up to the top of the timing screen. As you can see, time deleted for cutting turn 6 and 7.
Yeah, that's the chicane up at the top of the hill, and so he needs to keep an eye on those track limits if he wants to bring this lap time in, because we know Maximilian Paul has got the pace. Alessio Dono is flying once again in the AF Corsa number 25 Ferrari. Set 2 personal bests so far on this lap as he comes across the timing line now and goes top by 41 thousandths of a second. 1:42.816 for the Ferrari Challenge champion.
Yeah, fantastic effort from Alessio Dono. First appearance in the International GT Open. As we alluded to, his Italian GT efforts in 2022. He's now since competed in Ferrari Challenge Europe in the Trofeo Pirelli Pro class, becoming its champion and finishing runner-up in the world final. Maximilian Paul also finding personal improvements again in the first and second sector. Wasn't too far away in the first sector from actually getting a purple first sector. But again, losing a little bit in the second sector, but it's not too bad. Just needs to hook up a decent final sector this time around to this time post a valid lap time for the number 10 Team Oregon Lamborghini Huracan GT3 as he now bursts up towards the line and goes 8th fastest in this immediate, just outside or just under 7/10 of a second behind Alessio Dono up at the top. And look at the gaps once again. They were close yesterday. They're close once again between the top two. Abril, 41 thousandths off the top.
Yep, two Ferraris up at the front of the field, both coming out of the AF Corsa
He's improving again.
Stable. And yes, Abril, a personal best in the first sector. This is not a great lap for Dono. Well, it's 1.5 seconds down in the first sector, so maybe just building up to one last attempt. 90 seconds left on the clock. As we see Abril with a personal best here. Here he is, flying through the middle sector. So it's three Ferraris up at the front of the field. It's AF Corsa Run Spirit of Race, and then Racing One. And we see fastest in the middle sector for Vincent Abril there. He's gone purple. He's just 21 thousandths of a second away from Dono's time. But is he going to get traffic here right at the end of the lap with the Motor Park Mercedes right in front of him? Peels off to the right-hand side into pit lane, does the Motor Park, but so does Abril. That's all she wrote. He's not going to come back out again, so Abril's challenge is done.
Certainly is, and with the time ticking away, we're coming down to the final 45 seconds of action. More cars going side by side through the final corner, it looks like. We just see there the Ferrari just cutting in deep to the to what looks like that. And it looks like David Fuminelli, in fact, is making his way towards the line. Has found a personal improvement in the middle sector, but unfortunately, I think maybe have been slightly hampered coming down into the final corner. But importantly, he does have one final lap to set a best one and improve to go faster than Dono. So do not throw away your TV sets yet, folks. It could all come to pass here at the very end. There's Alessio Dono, and he's gone 27 thousandths faster in the first sector. So a great display from the young Italian. Like I said, first time in the International GT Open here this season. And with a grand opportunity as the checkered flag comes down to yet again improve some more, and he's gone beyond gone beyond a tenth of a second in the second sector as well. So the Ferrari 296 started to sing here for Alessio Dono. Improvements for Christopher Haase alike in that first sector. The question is, can he dig something up in the latter two sectors? Not forgetting Fuminelli, who is still out on track, but Alessio Dono in the Ferrari coming around turn 14. We've alluded to his exploits in the past. He's won championships in the past. Can he retain pole position with a further purple lap? Not quite. Just lost out in the final sector, but all eyes on Christopher Haase, Chris.
So 42.816 is the benchmark there, and Haase improving on the laps so far. He's aching close at the moment as he sliding the rear end of the Audi out to the penultimate corner. That might just cost him a little bit of time. We're talking very fine margins here right at the end of this qualifying session as Haase comes across the timing line now. Where does he put the Audi? He stays in fourth. He stays in fourth. It was an improvement, a 43.190, done less than a tenth of a second away from Fuminelli in the end, who's just come across the line. He didn't improve either. So it is Alessio Dono and AF Corsa on pole position.
Fantastic from Alessio Dono. Back to the top once more as he was in the Ferrari, well, certainly when driving the Ferraris prior. Now back again outside of the Ferrari Challenge European Pro-Am, or should I say the Pro Champion, coming out of the back of Ferrari Challenge, the Trofeo Pirelli Pro class, becoming its champion and a world final runner-up. Now this time tops the standings in a International GT Open qualifying session for race 2 this afternoon. And no doubt the celebrations are going to be quite something for AF Corsa as you can see from the viewpoint from the garage. A wonderful effort. We've always had quite a vast Ferrari contingent, quite a vast Ferrari support in this series in the past. They, of course, have been a grand contributor to that in recent seasons. And with Alessio Dono sticking his car on that top end of the qualifying timing screen, it'll send a clear message for the race this afternoon.
Alessio Dono will start the AF Corsa number 25 on pole position for this afternoon's race ahead of two other Ferraris. Vincent Abril in the spirit of race, number 51, and then David Fuminelli in the Racing 1, number 11. Christopher Haase, yesterday's race winner, 4th for East Talent Racing, ahead of Nico Menzel and Maximilian Paul. Yannick Metles, 3rd amongst the Pro-Am runners, and Diego Menchaca and Simon Connor Prim, with Marco Porcini, championship leaders in Pro-Am, completing the top 10. Further down, Lorenzo Fluxer, 11th for Team Motorpark, and then Marzio Moretti putting the number 19 Oregon Lamborghini 12th. Mikhail Pitamba hoping for redemption after yesterday. 13th, Christian Korzanowski, our AM pole sitter for Olymp Racing, ahead of Anthony Bartone. Adam Osaka, 2nd of the AM runners, and then Marcin Jedlinski in the sister Olymp car. Daniel Nagy in the Zengo Motorsport car, the local hero, 18th, ahead of Morten Stromsted and Valentin Pierberg. In 20th position, then Heiko Neumann for Team Motorpark, Marcelo Hahn in the AF Corsa, Libor Milotta, Florian Schultz and Giuseppe Cipriani. Then comes Bashar Margini, Stephen Gray filling in for Lewis Proctor in the Greystone GT McLaren, Michael Blanchimont, Gino Forgione and Hash completing the 30-car field.
Well, there you see the scenes in the pit lane. I was looking out the commentary box window and you could see the celebrations in full swing for Alessio Dono. First appearance here in the International GT Open, and he is a pole sitter. Welcome to the International GT Open, Alessio Dono. I'm sure it won't be the last.
Alessandro Cosi there on the left-hand side as well was congratulating him. He'll be getting in the car this afternoon, but wow, a great first appearance for Alessio Dono in the International GT Open. Of course, still in his first year of GT3 competition, competing in GT World Challenge this year. That's certainly the highest we've seen the number 25. But in 3rd position, it's all Ferrari at the front of the field. Racing 1 with David Fuminelli on his return to the championship. 3rd, Vincent Abril, 2nd in the race yesterday, and on the front row of the grid for race 2 this afternoon in the spirit of race Ferrari. But on pole position, Alessio Dono in the AF Corsa number 25. He's with Alfredo.
Alessio Dono, first time in the International GT Open and pole position for race 2 at the Hungaroring. Good result. You happy, huh?
Yeah, a big result for us. Infinite thanks for my team, my teammate Alessandro Cosi for this opportunity, for Danilo Sampaloni, my engineer Carlo, all mechanics. So big thanks for all. The car is amazing. My first qualification in this championship, but for me it's very good this lap. So infinite thanks for all.
And a difficult session with 2 red flags. Yeah. How you cope with that?
Yeah, the first set of the tires with the red flag is a little bit stranger because the pressure is a little bit lower, but now I start for the first road, so now I focus for the race.
2 paroline in italiano le vogliamo dire a casa, agli amici?
Sì, ringrazio tutti, tutta la gente che mi sta guardando, la mia famiglia, la mia ragazza, tutta la gente che mi supporta da casa e sempre Forza Italia, dai.
Bravo, complimenti.
Well, join us this afternoon at 1:45 p.m. local time for this afternoon's 60-minute encounter. We'll see you then.